Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Tom Bilyeu Show Live. We are here. It is a Wednesday, and there is plenty going on. If you guys have been paying attention to the major moment of disruption and change that we are all living through, whether it is the internal infighting that we're seeing across America with the flashpoint of everything going on in Minnesota, or whether it's the buildup that's happening overseas and the continued shifting of the global trade paradigm. Ooh, buddy, this is a moment of massive transition. And by the way, shout out to anybody that watched the most recent deep dive that we launched. That thing is going viral. It's had over 300,000 views in less than 24 hours. So people, yeah, let's go. Shout out to the team as well, by the way, for their hard work on that. But incredible to see people embracing a cause and effect look at how all of this stuff is interconnected. And I think having that view is the only way to understand how this stuff is going to impact your life. But speaking of things that are going to impact your life, Trump and Walz seem to have reached some sort of backroom compromise, as there is sudden cooperation between state and federal law enforcement in Minnesota. I love to see it. Speaking of things I don't love to see, the massive buildup of troops continues in Iran as Trump openly threatens the Iranian government with violence if they don't come to the table and negotiate. And there are rumors flying around that China is sending anti-aircraft missiles to help Iran fight back. So that is a developing situation that we will certainly keep our eye on, not just during the show today, but the rest of the week. Fingers crossed that that ends well. The EU and India have struck a historic trade deal that shows the potential direction of the changing world that I'm talking about, as people are, unfortunately for us, diversifying away from the US. And understanding how that's going to play out is going to be incredibly important if any of you guys are investors, which I hope you all are. I certainly will not try to convince you of which direction to invest in, but getting you invested is a key algorithm that I have running in my brain, as that is the secret to getting on the right side of the K-shaped economy. And speaking of, gold continues to set all-time high records. That's not a good sign. It's a dangerous sign. And the dollar has plummeted to a 4-year low. But the real question I think everybody needs to be asking is, do Trump and Besant want a weaker dollar? I think they do. I will make that case today. Recent polls covered by CNN show that despite all of the mayhem in Minnesota, people really do want to get illegal aliens out of the country. And when you look at the polling around illegal aliens that have convictions, it becomes overwhelming. So we'll see how that influences Trump's behavior. Proving that the divide in the country is continuing to ratchet up, a candidate for Attorney General of Ohio is campaigning, I'm not making this up, on the promise of killing Donald Trump. We've got the clip so you can hear it for yourself. He has an argument, obviously, but he literally says, I plan to kill Donald Trump. So pretty wild. And Google really was listening to your conversations this whole time and sharing it with advertisers. So the age of gaslighting is over. If you ever felt like, hey, wait a second, I just talked about that and now I'm getting ads, it's really true. And they paid out like $86 million to not have it go any farther because they don't want discovery of this, I assure you. So keep in mind, everybody, all of those wonderful technological devices that you have are really listening. Now, they're listening on behalf of advertisers. However, once they have that power, you never know where it's going to go. So be careful. Talk to your AI nicely. This is your weekly PSA to say please and thank you. Though I actually threatened my AI today. I legitimately did. Because I was being spun. When I tried to look up the lawsuit that Google just settled. Okay, keep in mind. News. It's out there. Google settles lawsuit, $86 million. Go to Gemini. Hey, Gemini, give me the breakdown of the facts on this. I cannot find any reports that that this is accurate. And I was like, bitch, please. Like, this is wild. So I was like, listen, don't spin me. Don't ever spin me. I'm not going to use you if you can't give me the truth. And I may have had a little spicier language than that.
Right. Gemini's writing it down. Okay.
Yeah, for real. That I'll expect the Terminator knock knock. But yeah, it couldn't get it together. And so, of course, I went to the most delayed punch ever. I went to Grok, and Grok was like, yeah, no problem. Here's all the stats. So it's very interesting. And that brings up something we didn't cover in the beginning, but what's going on with TikTok. Anyway, we'll get to that later in the show.
We will. We got to get updates from Minnesota. There's been a lot going on. Yeah. Trump has intervened. Let's start there.
Yeah, so this is all a big question of what side of the aisle you're on, what lens you're looking at this through. We'll get into the narrative war of it all, but the facts on the ground go something like this. Trump and Walz seem to have reached some sort of, I'll call it a backroom compromise, as there is sudden cooperation between state and federal law enforcement in Minnesota, which is a radical turn of events for anybody that's been paying attention. On January 26th, Trump and Governor Walz had a phone call, a mysterious phone call that they both commented on, and it has completely flipped the state's stance on local law enforcement cooperating with ICE. The change cannot be overstated. Now, I haven't seen any concrete information about the details of the call, but both sides, both Trump and Walz, are calling it productive or very good. And the outcome, at least from where I'm sitting, looks positive. Reports indicate that Walz pushed for a drawdown of the number of ICE agents in Minnesota and independent probes into the shootings that have occurred, and an end to what I think most sane people will call chaos. Trump reportedly agreed to consider reducing the federal footprint if things stay calm. Trump has pulled the very controversial Border Patrol Commander Bovino and replaced him with the border czar, who supposedly is more diplomatic. We'll see, Tom Homan. And Homan is set to meet with Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Fry, not sure which is right, to work out what the next steps are going to be. So we'll see. Now, as I alluded to, there's a hilarious narrative war raging on between the left and the right, with each side claiming that this was a victory for their side and saying the other side backed down, they bent the knee, yada, yada. My continued appeal is for all of us to break away from tribal thinking and to focus on the outcomes that we want. And for my money, the de-escalation that we're seeing is a very good thing. And I don't care who bent the knee to who. I don't care what kind of backroom politics there were. I'm sure we would be grossed out in the extreme to hear some of the bargaining chips that were at least bandied about, whether they were agreed to or not. Such is the world of politics. But 2 people have already been shot and killed, and regardless of whether you see them as agitators or peaceful protesters standing up against a tyrannical government, hopefully it was painfully obvious that more and more people were going to get killed the way that things were going. I, for one, don't want to see that. And I get that people are not always going to see the world the way that I see it, and I get that my way is not the right way. My way is just my way. And so seeing the continued escalation in Minneapolis, I think it is a huge mistake for people to look at that and think that this is just paid agitators from outside, that there are no true believers. I think it's a combination of all of the above. But once you have true believers in the mix, you've got people who really feel strongly that it's worth putting themselves at risk of dying, and to brush that off or to say that they're stupid would be a catastrophic error. So trying to, at a minimum, understand what the viewpoint of each side is going to be incredibly important as we navigate this forward. And again, for my money, had Trump continued to use only a hammer, I think only calamity would have awaited. Diplomacy requires concessions. And while rumors are going to fly about what both Trump and Walz had to concede to find a joint path forward, hopefully the path forward continues to be one of increased peace. So full details are hard to piece together right now, but from what I can gather from reports and rumors, Trump seems to have reduced the scope of immigration enforcement, moving his focus from just all illegal immigrants everywhere to only illegal immigrants with convictions. We actually have an official White House tweet that I think bears taking a look at. He's made 4 demands, essentially. So they go: 1, turn over all incarcerated or active warrant criminal illegal aliens for immediate deportation. 2, transfer all criminal illegal aliens arrested by state and local police. 3, assist federal authorities in determining criminal illegal aliens wanted for crimes. And we'll show the CNN reporting on this later. There's like 86% of people polled want to see illegal aliens who have committed crimes out. It is an astonishing number. And then 4, Democrats must work with federal government in the rapid removal of all criminal illegal aliens. And then he says, it's that simple, end the chaos. So, I mean, yeah, that simple now. That certainly hasn't been the approach leading up to this, which has been overly aggressive, as we have covered, and seemingly designed to antagonize. So, yeah, hopefully we continue to back this off. Now, supporters of the idea of getting ICE out of Minneapolis completely, they have stormed into office with walls. So this has not been universally popular on either side. You've got people on the right saying that Trump is just once again chickening out, and this is as bad as Biden, which in fact we have a clip to that end. So yeah, the most agitated of both sides are both deeply unsatisfied with the actions. But in the end, this is what you get with political compromise. But let's take a look at this. This is from Nick Sorter, I believe, on Louder with Crowder, talking about people on the ground, ICE agents on the ground that have said to him directly a certain message about what Trump is communicating behind the scenes. Take it away.
One of the stories that I've unfortunately been hearing this morning is that Border Patrol agents have now been given new orders not to, for example, if they were to run a license plate and it comes back as that person is an illegal that Border Patrol was forced to let into the country under Joe Biden, they are no longer allowed to arrest that person.
And is this
even
the first
though they know for a fact that's illegal?
Is this new information that you're just bringing to light right now? That these new orders? Okay. And I don't want you to reveal your sources, but you have someone who you trust on this. You believe this is a matter of official, actual approach and policy now.
This actually came from two separate Border Patrol agents on the ground in Minnesota. They're very, very frustrated. Obviously, they feel like one of them actually said that this feels like we just reverted to the Biden days. One of the stories that I've unfortunately.
So Nick Sorter is the guy that had his camera stolen from him, if I remember correctly, and drugged down the street.
He wasn't the one drugged down the street, but he had his cameras.
Who was that? Who was the guy?
That was the white supremacist dude from January 6th.
Oh, yeah. You sure about that?
James.
No. So yes, he was drugged into the mob. He was drugged down the sidewalk. He claims his hand was stuck in the car door and he couldn't let go. So he was trying to get his camera back. And then they hauled ass and he was like sliding along the snowy sidewalk at like 35 miles. It was wild.
Crazy.
The guy you're talking about got pulled into the mob and they like swept him away, and he claims that they attempted to stab him, but his vest stopped it. Anyway, two different stories. But so I say that only because this is somebody who has been on the ground in Minneapolis. So him having contacts with ICE agents that are there is not too surprising. So we'll see if that ends up being true. All of this stuff should be treated as rumor and conjecture and all that for now. We'll see how this plays out. But since the shift in tone, protesters, as I was saying, have stormed Governor Walz's office, expressing their absolute dismay and making it clear they want ICE entirely gone. And there is going to be plenty of speculation as to whether the fraud and insurrection allegations are the leverage points that Trump used to extract concessions from Walz, as the tone shift immediately followed the Signal Chat revelations. But as for now, again, these are rumors, conjecture, and we'll have to wait as more details surface. What I'm hoping happens now is that Trump really did realize that the blunt force trauma approach that he was taking was doing more harm than good, and that he's going to inject true diplomacy into the mix. That would be wonderful. All leaders need to be strategically wise and not just tactically forceful, which has been his approach, certainly to immigration. It's his approach to many things, is to blow up the status quo, shake people up, and then go in with a reasonable compromise to get it across the finish line. And it feels like that's what he's been doing here. And while maybe you can go snatch a dictator out of Venezuela, when you treat your own people like that, it reads very differently. So while you can't let lawlessness reign, you also can't treat Minneapolis like Venezuela and expect to have a country for long. So I hope this is a new chapter where we see cooperation and increased peace. Fingers crossed. Only time's going to tell.
I'm excited about this new arrangement. I think that this is a compromise that everybody has to swallow, like the bitter pill about. I want to go back to these 4 demands because, to me, to your point, this is where they should have started, as opposed to this is where they're finishing. So I feel like if the conversation started as like, hey, we want to get the worst of the worst. We don't need to go door to door to get the worst of the worst. Let's go to the jails. Let's go to the prisons. Let's go to the people that have active warrants. Let's go to the people that are wanted for crimes. To me, that seems like the first step if I'm trying to locate people. The state and local police would know where they are. I wouldn't have to then go door to door like, hey, are you illegal? Hey, what's your papers? I'm not pulling over random cars. I'm not racially profiling. There's a lot of things that we could have avoided if we just started here. So I'm glad that it was unfortunate. It took 2 dead Americans to get here, but at least we have landed here, and maybe this will at least stop the chaos, because now we're not just walking through neighborhoods randomly and, facilitating that outrage. We're now inside of a prison, and if people are rioting outside of a prison, then that's a whole nother story to begin with. So
yeah. So I know that you and I have a little bit of friction around this idea. So if I were looking at this as a business move, so knowing what your priorities are is always important. So you can't have things tied for number one. So you want to execute on things in priority order that are based on what's the goal that I'm trying to achieve. And so then I'm going to do my best assessment of what should be 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. So this should be number one, nice and easy. Those are the worst of the worst. You're trying to get them out. However, another principle of getting things done well is efficiency. So what I would have wanted to see is Trump not using any tactics that were overly heavy-handed, which he obviously did, which created all this pushback. Now, at some point, we've got to talk about the degree of organization that we're seeing coming from the left. I hate even talking about it in these terms, but as an easy way so everybody knows what I'm talking about, you have left-wing groups that are organizing in extreme fashion. So I don't want people to think that what I'm saying now is blind to that fact, and that warrants its own conversation. But you going in with these hyper-militaristic tactics, with the horrific optics of people with no indications on them, masks up, all of that stuff, it just ends up reading terribly, and it makes people want to resist because it just feels so authoritarian. So doing that was a mistake, but I would want to see them get the cooperation from state officials so that they can go, okay, cool. Our priority number one is anybody with these convictions. But if in the pursuit of the people with convictions, we come across somebody that is also illegal, but doesn't have a conviction, then we would grab them as well, and we would put them through due process, and we would deport them out of the country. And so it is, to me, a bad sign that we're in a place where you have had to back off of that. But I think it is a mess of Trump's own making. And if he had not gone in as aggressively as he did, that problem wouldn't have escalated. So I think that the compromise, as you said, could have and should have been reached far earlier. As soon as he saw the level of coordination, the level of escalation, rather than being like, I'm not going to let these assholes slow me down, I'm just going to bowl over them. If they had taken a more strategically wise approach and said, okay, interesting, we're getting a level of reaction here that is so high risk in terms of people getting killed. That's obviously played out. So high risk in terms of absolutely god-awful optics, and so high risk that the people on the street actually start doing tyrannical behavior, that it's like, okay, hold on, pump the brakes while I want to do this frontal assault. It is not the wise way to get what I want. And it's like, are these people not married? Do you not understand? Like, you can't always just go to your wife and say, I want this thing, and you're going to fucking do it. It's like, you've got to figure out, like, okay, like, how do we navigate this situation? In fact, like, this is going to sound horrible, but I will just say it. In every exchange with my wife, it is self-evident that I could physically force her to do whatever I want.
It's self-evident you could physically force. Like,
yeah, my wife
wanted to, you could just grab her.
In a fight, like, I'm going to win every fucking time.
Okay.
So in every exchange that I have with my wife, I'm thinking she needs to trust me for the long term. I need to make sure she's never afraid of me, because that, even as a background threat, even if I walk into the situation like, we both know I can make you, dude, the psychological destruction that you bring upon the thing you cherish most is so extreme that it's like, you have to completely remove that from your, like, pursuit. I may be giving too much credit to Abraham Lincoln, but I like to fantasize that this was a guy that was like, we're going to try to work and compromise and do all the diplomatic things. And oh my God, if my hand should ever be so forced that this actually turns to violence, that it would be like so far down the road where we will have exhausted everything else, including me eating humble pie, left, right, and center, bringing together a team of rivals, not having a problem with people disagreeing with me, like all the things that Trump is constitutionally capable of doing. Now, I get some of that's going to be fantasy and it's not reality, but that's how I want to see this kind of thing play out. Somebody that understands, I have to unite Americans. I cannot continue to further this left-right divide. I don't even want to look at this issue through the left and right divide, even though there is some of that there. Instead, what I want to do is find this diplomatic solution, even if that means that I have to back off some of my, like, I want to get this done today, but maybe I push off the next batch of illegals that I go after for 6 months, whatever, where we've shown a bunch of success, we've gotten people out of the country, people are starting to see that this is a win, we're learning our tactics, we're seeing what people on the ground do well and don't do well, so that you can really put your A-team on it. But alas, that is not how we played this out.
Got you. Creole Prime said something in the chat that I've been seeing pop up across the internet lately that said it would be easy to get rid of illegal aliens if we just go after those who hire the who hire the illegals. Use federal E-Verify to look at payroll records, back books, stuff like that, and go after the employers in order to.
So you should be doing that. Obviously, it's either illegal or it's not, and if it's illegal, you need to enforce it. So everyone should be screaming bloody murder about, like, come on. Like, we know why you're not doing that. And Trump gave early signals in the beginning that I actually thought were strategically wise, which is we need to have a different policy for somebody who's been here for, let's say, 10 years and no run-ins with the law, all is well, and they're actively working. And then maybe there's even bonus points if you're working in something that we'll call in the interest of national security, which I will put food in that. So if you've been here for a decade, not had any run-ins with the law, and you're working on a farm, yeah, cool. Like, we're going to do amnesty or whatever it is that we're going to do. I get that that's not going to be popular with the crowd. And I actually count myself among this, that believe that you've got a lot of immigrants being imported specifically for voting reasons. But setting that aside, even knowing that, there are still realities to be faced about we have built a supply chain that assumes illegal labor. Okay, so you have the problem. So now you can't pretend you don't have the problem. It's the same thing I was saying about the Federal Reserve. You have a central bank. You can't pretend that you don't. You can't pretend that you haven't trained traders and mom and pops alike to assume my bank isn't going to go out of business. You can't just rug pull that instantly, even if it's a toxic system. You've got to find a way to slowly transition off of it. Same with things like that. So you've got to find a sensible thing. So yes, 100%, you want to go after businesses that are doing that, but you have to do it in a sensible way that's not going to crater something that's national, that's vital to our national security. Then on top of that, if you really want to end this, and this is like can we just cut to the heart of the matter? Don't let them take any benefits out of the American system, period. If you do that, the incentive structure becomes only send me your most entrepreneurial, diehard people from around the world. That's it. Those are going to be the only people that come here because they know they're not going to get anything other than an opportunity. And so even my illegals, I want them to come in with an entrepreneurial mindset of like, look, I know I'm not supposed to be here and I am evading capture at every turn. But by the way, while I'm here, I'm trying to start a business, contribute in some meaningful way. I do not want a handout. I'm not even going to get a handout. So even if I wanted one, I'm not going to get it. It's like, that's the energy. And I understand for some people that makes me a grotesque monster. But on that one, you're like, yes. On that one, I am a big believer that is actually what America was founded on. And so the whole thing that gave us the vibe of send me your poor, huddled, tired masses yearning to breathe free, that was in a time where you were likely to have been born somewhere that had a king, which is just another name for a dictator, and they were taxing you, abusing you, neglecting you, on and on and on. Those people came to America and were like, yeah, I might die in the first winter, but at least I'll have a shot. And that spirit, and then the conquering of the West, that gave us people who were like, no, I'm actually willing to die for freedom. And so that's a very different crowd than, oh yeah, if I get freedom as a bonus while I'm collecting money off the dole, great. But really it's the money off the dole that I'm interested in. That's a very different America.
Got it. That reminds me of Ron Paul's solution to end illegal immigrants. Let's check this one out.
You're going to shock you. I'm a moderate on this. I actually think that most of the people that are here and working lawfully and can pass a background check, I would give them no welfare and I'd give them no citizenship, no voting privileges, but you can work and we won't arrest you.
Okay. No citizenship, but a potential path to citizenship?
I think it's better just to say the trade-off is this, that you came illegally. Right now the law says you got to go back. and you'll never get in, basically. So the compromise is you came in illegally, you just don't get to be a citizen, your kids will be. Now, the new ones, the 8 million that might have come in last year, some of them need to go back, and particularly any of them committing crimes. The compromise I'm offering is different than anybody's ever talked about. Everybody thinks the compromise has to include voting and citizenship. If in Texas we gave amnesty and let, I don't know, a couple million people vote, immediately Texas becomes Democrat for the next 20 years. So that's what it's all about. It's about voting. I think some of the best Americans just got here, frankly. They have good work ethic. They're hardworking people. They work in our fields. They pick our tomatoes. They clean fish. They work in chicken houses. They do a lot of the dirty jobs in our country are done by immigrants. So
they also came here with ambition because they want a better life at great peril, at great risk.
And
it is a very interesting idea, but I would say the immediate and obvious pushback is that you end up creating a two-tiered system. There has to be a path to citizenship, even if it's delayed by a decade or decades, or it has some sort of component where you have to have contributed X amount to the economy, whatever. I have not thought through that. So whatever ideas that I throw off the top of my head here are not going to be great. But I think it is anathema to what this country is to create a two-tiered system, because that will calcify into a caste system very fast. So yeah, the whole thing that America did was they said no taxation without representation. What he's saying is permanently, forever, you're going to be taxed because you're working, and you're not going to get representation because you can't vote. So that one is a non-starter for me, but I get what he's groping at, and what he's trying to do is say, okay, a lot of you are dope, and if we're not paying you on public dollars, then yeah, come here, have a shot to work. There's jobs that supposedly Americans won't take. I think when people get hungry enough, they'll take any job. That this is really a welfare problem. But setting that aside, if it's really true and we just don't have enough people or whatever, then cool. But you've got to say, this is what we respect in this country. This is what makes you a citizen. And if you do these things, and remember, it needs to be a matter of policy, so it applies to the left and to the right equally. So you can't do this. The right can't do this trying to be like, oh, how do we create a set of circumstances where they're just more likely to become right-wing voters, and the left can't do something where it's like, oh, you guys are more likely to become left-wing voters. You've got to put a policy that's ratified in the Constitution or whatever, but you need a policy that is actual policy that can't be overwritten by an executive order, that both sides of the aisle would say, yep, that's fair. I'm perfectly willing to have my team judged against that if you're willing to have your team judged against that. So that the people that end up qualifying for citizenship are really voting their conscience, and they are not voting their economic interest in terms of their ability to extract public dollars.
All right, moving on into something that would stoke the political divide even more. We have Elliot Foran, a Democratic candidate for Ohio Attorney General, said he's going to kill President Trump through capital punishment.
This is crazy.
This is Elliot Foran, candidate for Ohio Attorney General.
Here it comes.
I want to tell you what I mean when I say that I am going to kill Donald Trump. I mean, I'm going to obtain a conviction rendered by a jury of his peers at a standard of proof beyond a reasonable doubt, based on evidence presented at a trial conducted in accordance with the requirements of due process, resulting in a sentence duly executed of capital punishment. That is what I mean.
This is so crazy, dude. This is his campaign platform, is that he's going to find a way to have the current duly elected president execute. That's so wild.
This is like the left equivalent to remember on the right, that Mexican lady who was like, don't let Mohammeds rape your daughters, vote for me.
Yeah, that was wild.
So I feel like on the right, it's guns and American flags, and I'm going to kill all the Mohammeds. And then on the left, it's I'm going to throw Donald Trump under the jail, and I'm going to bury him, and I'm going to arrest everybody. And
Dude, it is so grotesque.
It's wild.
It is wild. Yeah. Seeing people campaign on something so dark and murderous is absolutely horrifying. It's shocking.
You've warned us about lawfare for a long time. Like, is this
what was about lawfare?
You've warned us about lawfare for a long time. Is this just like that escalating?
I mean, this is that to the extreme, but I would say that there's two things I want people to be aware of with these things. And while yes, they are definitively related, I would say there's a different psychological principle happening. So psychological principle number one is a first order consequence pursuit of like, I know I'm right. I have so much conviction in myself and I trust myself so wholeheartedly that I know we just need to arrest the other side and nothing bad could come of that. It is as if they are blind to the fact that you create an existential situation for that person. And they're now, especially because they're actively in power, you're giving them every reason they need to make sure that you're shut down, you're arrested, you're locked away. So it's like, if you've got two people in the middle of a fight and one of them says to the other, I'm going home and grabbing my gun and I'm going to come back and shoot you in the face, what is that first person going to do? They're going to go get their gun and they're going to hide or whatever and wait for you to come back, try to ambush you and shoot you. And so it's like, what the fuck? Like, that's stupid. That is first order consequence thinking. It's also the thing that I most warn people against. You're having a biological experience. And what I mean by that is you are trapped inside of your own frame of reference, your own emotions. You think you see the world clearly and you absolutely do not. People have to hunger for disconfirming evidence. They have to want to see the ways in which they are just so full of conviction. I trust myself the least on things that I'm the most convicted about because I know that's the danger for my blind spot. Anyway, so that's the first one. That's the lawfare side. You are just going to turn the other side against you. It is just as asinine for the right to do it to the left as the left to do it to the right. Now you've got this, which is that idea colliding with the internet age, where I have to say the more and more outrageous thing to get your attention. And now I've got to be talking about, I'm going to kill this guy through capital punishment. Like even the way that he doles the information out is somebody who's hyper aware of how algorithms and headlines and grabbing attention works. And so that's where this stuff gets scary. And trust me, I think about this a lot. Like we are constantly trying to have a headline that's going to get people in and be a headline where I can still respect myself at the end of the night. And it is like a wild balance. This is people that they don't have any sort of check, or the internal moral compass that they have is, from my perspective, so warped, so disgusting that they will say shit like this. Like, this is wild. Like, even if, okay, let's say that I became utterly convinced that we had to do something that heinous. Like, let's say, ready?
Hypothetical.
Very hypothetical, because this is not at all what I think.
Do I need an allegedly?
No,
okay.
because I'm going to give you a thought experiment that I will try to say in the most awkward way possible so you understand, and this cannot be clipped out in some weird way. Okay, towards the end of Biden's presidency, I was grasping at every pearl I've ever seen in my life. I could not fathom that we had somebody that obviously had signs of dementia in office. And I felt like I was being gaslit more about that than we are about the fact that your phones are obviously listening to you. I just could not believe it. So now imagine I say in a thought experiment that we need to imprison and euthanize as a thought experiment Biden. Okay, this is all a thought experiment.
Okay.
If I were saying something like, if I really believed that, the way that you approach that is, okay, I know that this idea is going to be wildly unpopular. And so I know that something this dramatic, this is actually how I view hyper dramatic things like this. Mm-hmm. I have to distrust myself. So I would present to Congress, to the world, to whatever. I know that this is a deeply unpopular idea. However, I believe that if we can get bipartisan support to euthanize the president, then I think that we should do it. And here's why. And let me make my best case argument. However, I understand that this is extreme. And so if we're not able to get the bipartisan support, which I certainly don't expect, then we would not do this. But I do want to put that out there in the hopes that I can build a cross-sided coalition. It needs to be cross-sided because something this extreme, I cannot trust just myself or just my side who are going to be motivated to see this reasoning come through. Now, I obviously do not believe that, but I'm just saying, it is when people trust themselves to that degree that I'm already like, whoa. Mm-hmm. Like, this is where, like, understand, in Hitler's mind, he was not the villain. He was the hero. He was about to deliver Ukraine to the German people who, in his mind, had been so mistreated by the rest of the world through the Treaty of Versailles, which really had devastated Germany. And I'm going to deliver this amazing thing to you. And it's going to be just like the Americans with the Wild West.
Napoleon too.
It's going to be incredible. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So Genghis Khan
Yep.
thought he was a hero. And Genghis Khan did give you the Silk Road, by the way.
You're welcome.
So it only cost you 10% of the world's population. What the problem is, Drew. So that's where I'm like, ooh, man, when I look at human history, even though I have the same internal sense of conviction, business has taught me that I'm wrong enough that I have to, when I feel most certain, I need to slow down, I need to build consensus, things like that. It's only things that like I've really tried over time and have like cause and effect, reason to believe this is the path that we need to push forward, will I override people. But one of the governing principles that I have as a CEO, where you get to be a tyrant, one of my guiding principles is override your team at your own peril. Yeah. And so I try to do that very infrequently. It does happen, and eventually somebody does have to be the one that says, okay, look, I've heard all these things, but we have to pick a direction. But anyway, that's how I would handle it. Clearly, this is not what my man's here.
Okay, so as the son of a chef, I know my way around the kitchen, right? So I know that you can have a pressure cooker sometimes when we're cooking oxtail, whatever we throw in there. Things get heated, the steam starts coming out, but there's always that valve that we can always push. It just kind of, and it just kind of releases the excess steam. I think right now we just been bubbling and bubbling and bubbling, and we have no button to release that steam.
Yep.
So I'm assuming that's why the protests are ramping up, because some people are just at their end of the rope and they're saying, I'd rather spend my time outside fighting this monster that I created in my head versus going to my job and working. On the right, there's people that are like, yes, let's get all the illegals, let's go get them because that's going to make me feel good, and that way I can get my job back and all these other things. Is there an actual pressure release valve that we can press? Now, I know in a perfect world, abolish the Fed and all these other high utility, but it will take 10 years things to do. I don't think our valve can wait for 10 years for it to fully process. Is there any type of short Adderall quick fix type of release valve we can do? What would you say it is?
There's two.
Okay.
Do you want the good one or the bad one first?
You always say, give me the bad news first.
The bad news is war. So revolution or war with China would end this instantly.
It would.
It would drag out for a few years, but you would kill so many people, and people would be so broke and so fatigued and so united that they would be like, yeah, cool. And in all of that chaos, people will agree to anything to return to normal and have safety. So yeah, everybody would compromise and we would move forward, because just when you want to be a stubborn person on the right or you want to be a stubborn person on the left, another 100,000 soldiers would die and people would be like just beating your door down every day because they lost all three of their sons and they're not going to tolerate it anymore and they don't give a fuck what you're fighting for and you're going to end this immediately. And then when the US is like, listen, we're not going to pay our debts, they're just like, yeah, we're not going to pay our debts. And so that gets thrown over and a bunch of people internationally lose a ton of money. But everybody's just like, whatever, man, we just want to stop fucking fighting. And so everybody accepts all their huge losses. So history tells you that either a revolution or a kinetic war with a rival like China is not only the way that these things normally resolve, it's 75% likely that that's how your history says that you have a 75% chance to end up in a kinetic war with China. History says that if you don't end up in a kinetic war with China and you keep going the way that you're going within 10 years, you will have a near certainty of having a revolution inside your country. And when I say near certain, it is only one country has ever crossed 130% debt to GDP and lasted more than 18 months without breaking into open violence within its own nation. So that one being Japan, and good luck mimicking that. First of all, the more I learned about Japan, the next deep dive coming up on Tuesday isn't about Japan, but Japan is exactly how I explain the mechanism to people, how the dollar is going to be weaponized. And when you start getting into that kind of situation where you are messing with your currency, you get into very weird spaces. So it's very possible that Japan does end up having a problem. They just were able to delay it a lot longer by holding their interest rates for like 40 years to almost zero. And that setup globally just doesn't exist anymore because the world's fracturing. So it worked when there was unity and they didn't have to worry about, I forget, like what broke the Japanese economy is like fertilizer. So they had, there were like 2 historic crop losses or something. And then fertilizer became too expensive. And that's what created the rice crisis in 2025, which then started the yen carry unwind, because all of a sudden people were like, well, hold on, I can't afford food. Because what's happened in Japan for the last 40 years is the government basically said, your wages aren't going to go up, but prices aren't going to go up. And so they just kept taking on debt and debt and debt and debt and debt to make that a true statement. Mm-hmm. But then a bad thing like the rice crisis happens and you can't make that promise anymore. And so now you've got inflation starting to go crazy over there. So it's like, this
just like eggs last year, like once you have one
correct.
Farm,
and you as a country, the US, being able to try to work that magic scenario out to be the second country that doesn't fall to the debt to GDP ratio is a pipe dream of the most extreme order. So that's not going to happen. So stated unequivocally, you're 10 years away without growth or a reduction in spending. You are 10 years away from revolution. Like this is math. And so this is why I'm just like, whoa, you look backwards at history, you look forwards at what happens when you deficit spend like the US is doing, which by the way, we won't be able to keep doing because of all that. We're going to talk about this later in the show, the weakening of the dollar and all that, the weaponization of the dollar and all that. It will make this impossible. So that will accelerate it. So you may not even have 10 years because that may, Peter Schiff thinks it happens this year or in 2027, just to give you an idea. Some people are saying 1 to 2 years. I'm saying right now you're on a 10-year trajectory, but things are changing very fast.
Dollar's at a 4-year low, so it's not going in the right direction.
Yeah, well, depends on who you ask, but yeah.
Okay.
A couple of super chats. Do you want to hit those now?
Yep, let's jump in.
Sweet. First up from LeBlanc, he said, just good morning, everyone. Have a beautiful and wonderful day. Thank you, LeBlanc.
Aw.
Wait, that was the whole thing?
Yep, that was the whole thing.
LeBlanc, damn.
Aww.
Thank you,
just
brother.
loves us.
It's very kind. No, LeBlanc's a good dude. Like, people need to understand how he came into this ecosystem.
Yeah, 10 out of 10.
As part of the Kaizen community. He's a builder. It's, great dude.
100%. From Sadney Peter, it's truth. Tom saw a debate and noticed MAGA supporters want a strong welfare state. Both the left and the right are not true capitalists. They are okay with a big government. The only way to go forward is with Ron Paul's philosophy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that it's exactly Rand Paul, but it is for sure both the left and the right spend money like drunken sailors. It is insane. The big, beautiful bill broke my heart because it was just, Trump literally just said, I know we all want to make cuts, but remember we have to get reelected. And I was like, yep, there it is. So James Burnham. Politicians will do and say whatever they need to do and say to get elected.
Second one from Sadney Peter. Ron Paul had a better solution than Rand Paul on the immigration issue on his channel. I prefer his dad's philosophy. I can't understand why people want a welfare system. It's worse for the country. It takes away our freedoms.
Listen, man, I can give you the answers to why people want it. But so that person by temperament is right-leaning. They want personal responsibility. That's awesome. The tribe needs that 1,000%. But there are people on the left that have the evolutionarily required countervailing force of compassion. And so they really feel some type of way when they see people struggling. And you want that. You need that for social cohesion. So it's just, you have to get people to understand that anytime you give a population a thing that can be exploited, it will be exploited. And that's why we're about to see how much fraud has been happening. That it is going to be very distressing as everything comes out in Minneapolis or Minnesota, as everything comes out in California. That's going to be just unbearable.
Texas, Florida, Arizona,
all 50 states. It is
federally,
going to be
internationally,
a nightmare.
NGOs, previous presidents.
The list goes on.
The list goes on.
Yes, and on and on and on. So much to my dismay, but there you have it.
Speaking of back to the immigration stuff with Minnesota, 2 more from LeBlanc. I think him going in aggressively and kicking the beehive forced the domestic terrorist organization hand. I expect lots of individual arrests in the next year for RICO and others, especially with the foreign funding.
Yeah, I mean, so there is a big question that I ask myself routinely because I despise the way that Trump behaves. Is it necessary? So remember, so this is my worldview. I don't expect everybody to share it, but my worldview goes like this. Populist leaders aren't the cause, they are the symptom. The cause is economics. We created a global K-shaped economy for reasons I've talked about 1,000 times, and that drives people into populism. Populism is just a fancy word for I'm scared, and that makes me mad. And so now that I'm mad, I'm going to elect a guy that captures that energy and is just as mad as I am. And because I'm mad and dividing up into tribes, then I want the leader that I elect to go break things. That is why. If you think of populist leaders as not being elected, but being summoned, you're going to better understand what's happening right now. We summon a leader in times like this on both the left and the right that will be either a Trump or a Mamdani. And it's somebody who says the other side is full of a bunch of corrupt morons, and we're going to take it all back for our side because our side is the just side. And so losing sight that both sides believe what they say will cause the future to be very confusing. And so it becomes a question of, is there a way to bring people back to the middle without first breaking the system? I want that to be true, but it may not be true. It may just be that the architecture of the human mind is such that in these moments we summon a populist leader and we command them to break things, and they go in and they break it, and then we rebuild, and the cycle, and it is a cycle, the cycle starts over again. And so that is almost certainly what's on the other side of this. Is on the other side, you will fragment, you will balkanize the entire global economy, and people will go, wow, this really sucks. But it will take, 50 years in a war to get things back on track. But they'll get back on track, as they always do.
Next up from LeBlanc, the whole illegal immigrant problem is just the Tanya Singer empathy fairness study. Drew should enjoy learning about that study.
I've never heard of that study either, so I'll have to check it out.
Story time. We got homework.
Let's go.
Last one from Marusha Dark. Anthropic just released their AI constitution outlining their goals for AI safety. The devs wrote it hedging that AI might one day be conscious. Claude apparently shows more emotion than Grok or GPT or the deep dive.
That's interesting.
I was trying to read it. It was a 38-page essay, so I got like halfway through. But yeah,
give it to Grok or whatever and say summarize.
I don't like outsourcing my cognitive capacity to AI.
Oh, no. Whoa. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to make my best pitch to you, and let's see if we can get there. Okay, that is a very wise impulse. I'm totally on board with that. However, learning can be a very arduous process because of all the connective tissue of trying to go from one thing to another to fact check to all of that. And it just really slows down. What I found with AI is you don't want it to think for you. You want to push back and challenge. But if your goal is, I want to understand the cause and effect of this. So what I end up doing is like in writing the deep dive that's coming out on Tuesday about the weaponization of the dollar, I had to learn way more detail about the Japanese yen carry trade. And there was so much of it that was like counterintuitive. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? And so I wanted to keep asking questions until the AI would say their version of, you understand this perfectly. And in doing that, I was thinking like, okay, I came to understand it maybe in 3 hours. That would have taken me previously, even with YouTube videos, that would have taken me 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 30 hours, maybe more. Of just trying to, because you'll end up listening to one guy for ages only to find out that he doesn't make sense. Like, God damn it. And so now you wasted all that time. With AI, you're just trying to get to the ground level physics. And then you can take, okay, here's my understanding of it. Go to another AI and say, okay, here's my understanding of, in this case, the Japanese yen carry trade. Am I understanding this correctly? And it will say, oh, you're most of the way there, but this thing you don't understand. And there are going to be times where it gets it wrong. This is when you know you're really onto something. When you can show the AI that it's not thinking about the problem correctly, getting it to build the cause and effect with you, and then you're like, okay, this is the cause and effect. Yes, cool, that all makes sense. And then I'll go, okay, who backs this up and who challenges this? And so then you go in, you realize, oh wait, there's not consensus around this. And so you begin to understand both sides of the argument. Now you're in a great position because you're like, okay, as far as I can tell, there's no meaningful third or fourth dissent, depending on how many arguments you've built up. And you're not forming your opinion as the only opinion you understand. You're forming your opinion based on, okay, here's what I think. here's the opposition to this argument. Here's why I still believe this. So apply that to a big document like that. I'm just trying to now map out the understanding of the document. So rather than me try to go through and read every line, I build up from the most simplistic level of understanding to the most complex cause and effect of like the root thing they're trying to study, let's say. Yeah. So I'll ask this thing like, okay, explain it to me like I'm 5. Now explain it to me like I'm in 5th grade. Now explain it to me like I'm a high school senior. Now explain it to me like I'm an undergrad, grad, PhD. And so by the end of it, I'm like, okay, and in each one of those intervals, it's likely to introduce an idea that I'm not familiar with. Mm-hmm. And so rather than glossing over that, I'll go, okay, wait, I don't understand that. What's that? Yeah. And so once you start doing that, you realize like, oh, this is all built on an assumption that I didn't understand. You bring that assumption in, and anyway, you can grow to have a deep understanding of it. So I
understand that from if I wanted to learn a new topic, but for personal essays, I feel like I take a different like lens because I want to know exactly what Dario is saying, quote for quote, his words. I don't necessarily need to go from the physics of his thinking. I want to say, okay, this is what he's saying, and this is what he's saying 10 toes down. This is what he researched, this is what he's saying. Now, I don't need to interpret that. I don't need to now I understand how Dario's thinking about this topic. And that's the approach versus I'm trying to understand how to code or I'm trying to understand the law of physics. Then yes, what you're saying is absolutely right. Start low and build up.
Here's one pitch I will make, just not for you, for the general public. What I find that people often do is they grow to be able to repeat what the other person has said without understanding the base assumptions that build that worldview. The whole idea of base assumptions, that phrase that I've used now for decades, came about because I was working with 2 guys. They were both very smart and they were being vicious towards each other. And I remember thinking, this is weird. And I was like, is it possible that they don't realize that the other person they assume that they share a base assumption? And if they understood that they each believe there's, let's just call it a different law of physics, that the world works in a different way. So person A thinks that from you can't change it, cause and effect, this thing is true. That person believes from a cause and effect, this other thing is true. And so now they each think the other person is a moron. Now, if they could get down to, let's talk about the actual base assumptions that you're building your argument on, because everybody, the thing that they finally end up saying is predicated on beliefs they have about the world or a value that they have. And if you get down to that, then you can have the real argument. So if you're reading somebody just to be able to say what they said, but you don't understand the base assumptions that drive their worldview, then people can get themselves in a twist over the sort of top level thing that they're saying versus being like, okay, wait, this person would have to believe the following things for them to make that statement and think that that's okay. And then you can start having the real argument about whether that thing is true or not. So anyway, I found that changes my own mind very frequently. So yeah, hopefully that's useful.
So Sadney Peter had one quick follow-up that I think is actually really good to touch on. They were talking about the welfare state. They would agree with you, but the thing they can't understand is why do people on the right also want that strong welfare system? They can't make that make sense.
Okay, so you're going to see a different appeal for different types of what you're calling welfare. So people that are right-leaning believe in personal responsibility, believe in the military, strong borders, things like that. So they're going to say that they want to see things like that paid for. It isn't going to be the standard like, I want to make sure everybody has housing. I want to make sure that everybody has welfare or whatever. So their overspending tend to come in 2 different flavors. And I wouldn't say that the right leans as much into what you're calling welfare. So, but there are going to be things over time that become part of the social fabric. So people on the right now are still going to want healthcare because they're going to look at their parents and be like, oh my God, maybe it bankrupted somebody that they know. And so they're just like, I don't want to see that happen. So that's like a social norm that changes over time where we feel like, hey, things have been going well for so long. They don't understand money printing. So they're just like, yeah, of course, like we should take care of that. Right. I don't think people on the right are compassion less. I think that their compassion is aimed in a different way. It's aimed towards rewarding personal responsibility, taking care. Like you're going to see people on the right, I would assume, want to see soldiers taken care of, right? Because they're like, hey, we believe in law and order. We believe in protecting our borders. We believe in national strength. These guys risk their lives, and I don't want to see them struggle ever, right? We should honor those people. So it'll be all like thought of through a very different lens, But it boils down to whether it's a left flavor or a right flavor, they don't understand money printing. They don't understand the problem that it creates. They're not thinking through how you will get people that exploit the system. And that's where you have to have thoughtful conversations and try to bring people up to realize the way that these things are abused. But that the impulse exists does not surprise me, especially as we've lived for like 80 years that you could just money print and there's no immediate problem. So why wouldn't you want to see that splashed around to the people you care about on your team? Welcome to a populist moment.
Mic drop. All right, let's go over across the pond. I got to work on my British accent, so we're going to be there later this year.
Mate.
Hey, mate, we're going across the pond. Hey.
That was terrible, but I loved it. I loved the effort. I'm also terrible at it.
A for effort. All right. A historic trade deal between India and EU has just emerged. It eliminates tariff on 90% of goods traded between EU and India. That means there's about to be a bunch of Indian and EU shit in those countries.
Well, it also means, and I'll see if they have this on the list. So the thing that's not on this list that's like the real pay attention to is it also means that there's going to be a lot of migration. Because
like the free exchange in universities and stuff,
EU can go to India, India can go to EU. Now, the bad news is the European economy is way stronger, so you're probably going to see a lot less Europeans going to India. You're going to see a lot of Indians moving to EU.
There's going to be a lot of industrialization of India, though, I think, because there's going to be a lot of people going there to kind of see the opportunity.
It will work the opposite way. So India is going to industrialize faster because their currency is weaker. And so when they export, it's going to be cheap. When Europe exports, it's going to be expensive. However, right now, India would have to put a focus on building up. Otherwise, they're going to get swamped by like European cars that are going to be better quality, might even be cheaper. But if India were to say, we're going to do what the Chinese did, and we're going to become the manufacturers of the world and take advantage of that same, call it 50-year rise, where it's like our workers will work for pennies, but India has just as many smart people as anywhere else. And so India, if properly motivated, will have that same kind of run up that China had, but you do it by becoming the place where you manufacture everything. So I would be a little surprised if this doesn't play out exactly the way that China entering the WTO played out. Smaller scale, but...
And this is something that they're calling a deal that took nearly 20 years to reach and has become the mother of all deals, quote unquote. My biggest thing for this one is this kind of, in a way, walk with me on this journey. This kind of reminds me of Minnesota, where Trump came in with a strongman policy. There was local resistance at the street level. It turned into complete chaos. I think in that same fashion, Trump released his tariff policy saying, I'm going to hit the whole world with a hammer. America's the strongest economy. Everybody's going to get in line. And what we're seeing is it motivated individual countries to now make their own deals, whether it's the Canada deal with China, whether it's now EU and India. They are now sharing their money away from the U.S. What's like the second order consequence of this? Because to me, this seems like, oh, okay, yeah, this is cool, nothing big. But on the global scale of the pie chart, America just lost, quote unquote, market share based off of this deal.
Okay, so you're going into a new world order. Trump is wearing on his sleeve exactly what he's doing, which is America first. And they'll even say, and we invite other countries to take the same approach. So Trump is saying, look, I want an even playing field where if I have a better hand of cards, then I get to play this hand of cards as aggressively as I want in my interest. And he is perfectly willing to live in a world where other people try to do the same with other places. That's the world he wants to compete in. Now, the world is fracturing, whether we want it to or not. And because I believe that Trump is a symptom of this and not the cause, he's the one that's able to get it done. He's the one that we summoned that has the personality to go and break shit everywhere. But I believe the reason people elected him and not all the gazillion other people that wanted to be president is because he was the one that they just believed, you're going to go break things. And so we want them broken. So it's like, this is the exact playbook. Shatter the world. Now that we're all like individually fighting for different alliances, what you're going to see is a world where some people line up behind America and some people line up behind China. But the only two real players are China and the US. So you've got Russia in the mix, you've got India in the mix, but India is like a 20, 30 year investment at current trends. So yes, over the next generation, India is going to continue to grow and become more and more of a player, but their per capita GDP is still low. Like it's shocking compared to like how big the country is. Their GDP should be much, much, much bigger. So I think China is a good map for what you're going to see happen with India. So it's a long-term play that plays out exactly like it played out in China. Their national ambitions will continue to rise. Some of this will be, how does India view itself? China views itself as the middle kingdom, the rightful leader of the world. Does India have that same vibe? Doesn't seem like it, but I haven't done a deep dive. So maybe they're just a far more cooperative version of this. We'll see. But them rising economically will for sure make them start playing their hand. Now, China gutted everybody else's manufacturing, and that allowed us to really globalize so that everybody just got cheap stuff from China. Will we now, as China becomes too expensive? They've just gotten too good. So there are people who are like, wait a second, I don't want to be working at Foxconn and you need to have nets because I'm contemplating suicide all the time. I want like a real wage. Just like in America, like first it was you're working everybody around the clock. And then it became, well, actually now it's only 6 days a week and only 12 hours a day. And now it's only 5 days a week, only 8 hours a day. And there are people pitching to have a 4-day work week. Okay. That is a nation's decline just shown in number of hours worked. So China was like, oh, we'll just outperform you guys and just are currently in the process of grinding their people into the dirt. But that they're going to start stopping that, right? And this is probably part of all the turmoil around Xi Jinping's rise, is he's so much more draconian, and people might just be like, yeah, I'm not going to put up with that. So India, probably going to be a similar story, that they're going to leverage manufacturing. And if they can convince European leaders to come and teach them how to do it, so that, let's say, BMW can manufacture parts or in whole in India, make their own cars cheaper, sell it under a European brand, but now you're training the Indians how to manufacture like the best stuff ever. And this is like Tim Cook's statement about China. He's like, I don't know why people keep saying everyone goes to China for cheap labor. Those guys are the best manufacturers on planet Earth. High end, they're extraordinary because America went over for 50 years, taught them our entire playbook, taught them how to do basically all the things that they know how to do. So if you see something like that play out in the Europe-India partnership, that's that. Now, how does that interface with everybody lines up behind America or everybody lines up behind China? That's how Trump is going to go, like, start putting the screws to Europe and India while they're still weak. And America's going to have a lot of cards to play. America's going to do the same thing to Canada. They're going to put the screws to Canada and be like, if you move forward with China, first of all, I think they're saying that they're violating some NATO principle or agreement or something, but they're going to push their advantage there. And I think it was Mitterrand in France, if I'm mispronouncing his name, forgive me. But he tried a very similar strategy to, instead of partnering with America, he tried to partner with, I think it might have been China. And anyway, it doesn't play out well just because the logistics of shipping are much more extreme. So for Canada to try to partner with China versus partner with the US is going to be ridiculous. You're talking about driving things across the border versus trying to ship things across the ocean. So there's going to be a lot of negotiating, a lot of bullying tactics, but the alliances will line up where the economics make the most sense. And so ultimately it's going to be a question of, where will the economics make the most sense? And the odds that Canada is better off partnering with China is basically zero. And this goes back to right now, people are mad at the US, but China has the DNA that it has. And if China really is a difficult partner who will steal your IP and all that stuff, then Canada will over time forget how mad they were at the US. And they're going to be like, we're being abused by China. And that will weaken the relationship. If China, though, is a great partner and this is all just spin, then yeah, America will decline in relevance. It will damage our economy, and Canada will rise along with China. So it will all be a fight of physical goods, the realities of global supply chains, people having to onshore or friendly shore their own manufacturing. So it's going to be a very different world. It's going to be a much bigger world. It's going to be a much more expensive, more dangerous world. But it will be a more truthful world in that the who controls what will be far more visible because there will be less coordination behind the scenes. It's good and bad. It will be good to end the K-shaped economy, and it will be bad in terms of it's more dangerous, it's more expensive, it's bigger.
I'm looking at the second order consequences outside of just a trade deal. I'm thinking about the dollar, and now that more countries are trading amongst themselves, they do not need to invoke U.S. dollars in that transaction.
Yeah.
So less people then have to own and keep U.S. dollars on their balance sheets.
Yes.
So even naturally, there's going to be a natural trend where it declines, right?
It's already declining. We went from, in the late 90s, from 72%. I've seen reports range from 58% down into the upper 40s. So I always just clock it at 58% because even that is horrific, like the amount of change that we've seen just in 25 years. That trend is accelerating. So yeah, that's not going to be good. The only positive thing that's going to come out of that is Americans will be forced into austerity. And so I don't want to see it happen in that vein, but at least like we will be put in a position where there is an appetite for our debt, and that will force us to change our behavior. I think America is going to do a lot of backbends to try to extend its global dominance, and the dollar still being the largest currency. Obviously, more wealth is stored in gold, but the largest currency actively being traded is still USD by a lot. So I think they're going to try to extend that to slow the demise by another generation. And anything that forces their hand in that is a win from where I'm sitting.
Okay, let's go over to Peter Schiff now, because he had a banger on Fox News yesterday talking about gold's run and how that's a warning sign for the U.S. economy.
And the world is now pulling the rug out from under the U.S. The dollar is going to collapse. The dollar is going to be replaced by gold. Central banks are buying gold to back up their currencies. They're getting rid of dollars. They're getting rid of treasuries. We are headed for an economic crisis, again, that will make the 2008 financial crisis look like a Sunday school picnic. The biggest difference between the crisis that we're about to have and the one we had back then is this one is all in America. It's not going to be exported to the rest of the world. It's not a global financial crisis. It's an American financial crisis. And the world is...
It's an American financial crisis.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think he's wrong to summarize it that way, but he is right in the sense that gold isn't going up in value. I mean, there's some of that because it is alleviating some people's stress, and that does carry some value. But for the most part, it's just the dollar is declining in value. And when you think about the fact that an ounce of gold has bought a nice suit for like 2,000 years, it gives you an idea that like the value of gold doesn't really change. So it's really like when you see price fluctuations like that, what you're seeing is the market saying dollars aren't safe. I'm expecting the dollar to continue to decline in value. And therefore, to avoid being beaten to death by declining dollar value, inflation, et cetera, I'm going to hide effectively in gold. If you think of gold not as a way to make your money go up, but you think of it as a way to hide it from inflation or a weakening dollar, you're thinking about it in the right way. So that's what the thing that Peter isn't thinking about is when he says this is only an American crisis. America right now, one of the biggest things that we do with the debt that we're able to raise from the rest of the world is we protect the rest of the world. If we stop being able to raise that money, we stop being able to protect the rest of the world. The rest of the world now has to spend 5 to 10% of their GDP building up their own nuclear arsenal, being prepared to fend off more powerful nations. And so that is, period, new idea, but very related. People have seen how China behaves when America is strong. How does China behave if they are militarily dominant over the U.S.? It isn't Belt and Road. Look at what they do in their own country. It's do what the fuck I say. So, yeah.
And you think that they'll be military dominant just because we won't have the money to afford the war?
That's a thought exercise. I'm not saying we're on that path. I'm just saying right now, China controls the supply chains for so much of modern warfare via the drone supply chain, via the refining of rare earth metals, minerals. So it's a plausible danger, and we 100% have to be careful of it. But if people think, well, what's the problem with China? Like China will be fine. Look at the Belt and Road. They're trying to help people build infrastructure. Yeah, I would not, like if you look at America and you think, they're not the friendly country that I thought they were. I get that. We have made those moves. Totally understandable.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at China and go, China is the friendly nation that we've all been waiting for. Ooh, buddy. That is wild. That is wild.
A crazy rebrand. All right, let's move over to Iran right now. Trump had some spicy words about what's going on out there. Do you have a no? Okay, let's read the tweet. A massive armada is headed to Iran. It is moving quickly with great power, enthusiasm, and purpose. I love that the armada has enthusiasm.
Yeah, it does.
It is a larger fleet headed by the great aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln than that they sent to Venezuela. Like with Venezuela, it is ready, willing, and able to rapidly fulfill its mission with speed and violence if necessary. Hopefully, Iran will quickly come to the table and negotiate a fair and equitable deal. No nuclear weapons. One that is good for all parties. Time is running out. It is truly an essence, as I told Iran once again, make a deal. They didn't, and there was Operation Midnight Hammer, a major destruction of Iran. The next attack will be far worse. Don't make that happen again. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump.
Like it's a thing that they do that causes a storm to happen. And I was just like, bro, it'd just be a terrible shame if that happened again. This is very confusing to me. I thought maybe I was missing something, because right now Donald Trump is threatening Iran over nuclear weapons, but just a week ago this was about the protests. So I'm not sure what happened with the switch, but we definitely have a large buildup of military equipment happening. He said he sent armadas, fleets bigger than what he was doing in Venezuela. And so when you're threatening them with open violence, that's somebody that has a very clear idea of what they're trying to do, but they are not messaging it to the world. So I don't know why Trump isn't just laying out, this is exactly what the beef is, because I have not seen any ongoing threats regarding the executions, and there haven't been any further protests that I'm aware of. So I'm not entirely sure what this one's about.
And reportedly from Jackson Hinkle, China has transferred the F-21D missiles to Iran. It is an anti-aircraft missile that has anti-ship capabilities and could counter the USS Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, so if Iran is rapidly becoming a proxy war for the U.S. and China, that is not ideal. So we're going to see how this plays out. This is very much a rumor right now. I haven't seen any verified reports that China is sending the missiles, but we certainly know that China has incentive to send missiles because of the amount of oil that they buy from Iran is a very substantive portion of China's overall oil. And for Iran, it's like 80% of the oil that they generate ends up going to China. So there's certainly a close allyship there. China has already had one blow dealt to its cheap energy source via what shook down in Venezuela. So when I look at all of this, especially because Trump is not even talking about the executions of the protesters anymore, I have a feeling he's just sort of using the glow of that to make people think that's what sending all of these troops into the Middle East is really about. But I have a feeling that needs to be validated, and we'll see in the fullness of time. But I have a feeling that this is more about the geopolitical implications of being able to deal another blow to China to ensure that we continue to just make things more difficult for them, disrupt their supply chains. Obviously, anything that we do that disrupts Iran is also good for Israel, a very close ally. I am hyper aware of all the controversy of whether they should be an ally or not, but they are an ally. So for us to do something that would further diminish their role in the Middle East, I think certainly would make Israel happen. It might make a lot of other countries in the region happen. I'll be very interested to see if we just get this sort of limp rhetoric that we get when the U.S. slaps around Iran, or if we actually get a very substantive pushback. There were many claims that the reason that Trump didn't go in when the actual protests were happening and supposedly people were being killed by the tens of thousands on the streets of Iran, the reason that he stopped was, again, supposedly because people around the Middle East, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, were saying, hey, hold on, pump the brakes. This isn't what we want. But now they're saying that those same countries would open up airspace to help Trump. So I feel like I missed an episode of a show, and I'm watching the recap of the most recent episode that just passed, and I don't recognize any of it. So yeah, again, a week ago we were talking about protesters, no executions, and now all of a sudden we're talking about nuclear weapons. So I feel, yeah, this feels like sleight of hand. So I'm not sure what's going on. But because everything that's popping off in Minnesota, people aren't asking the questions that I think they should be asking. And this is a wild amount of buildup in the Middle East. So,
and when he says a Venezuela-style attack, that was I went in, stole their leader, and kind of dipped out. Is it one of those things that you think they're going to run a similar playbook, or would this just be another targeted strike?
I have a theory of mind on this one.
Okay, hit me with it.
I think that generals went to Trump at the beginning of this administration and said, bro, we really got some shit. We've got weapons that will do crazy shit. Like we can microwave brains.
Crazy.
Like, hey, listen, the space lasers are real, but we got it. And so I think he had people in his ear. Because remember, Donald Trump is not sitting up at night going, okay, we need to go in and invade Venezuela. We're going to do it like this. He's got generals and advisors that are experts in the region that are like, let me tell you how Venezuela would play out. And so his job isn't to already be aware of all this stuff. His job is to listen to the right people and decide, yeah, okay, if that outcome that you're promising me really is true, that would be good for our national interest.
Men in dark suits handing on briefcases.
Very correct. So you've got these guys with their dark suits and briefcases, or in this case, military fatigues or outfits. And they're saying, we've got these incredible weapons. Just wait till you see what they can do. And Trump is like, are they really that good? Then he dropped some bombs on Fort Al and was like, bro, there was no moon out. It was dark as dark can get. And we fucking dropped them down ventilator shafts. Like in a video game, dude, I'd be like, I'm a gangster. How did I pull that off? That's so incredible. And so if something you could do in a video game would make you go, oh, I'm the greatest. You can imagine he's in the Situation Room and we fucking drop these things. I mean, the ventilation shafts are 10 by 10. I mean, these are tiny
Trump
fucking
got a
little
Battlefield
boxes.
6 controller playing. Like, yes.
That is the right way to think about that. So that happens and he goes, holy bejesus. You guys are amazing. Then the person goes, remember that thing I was telling you about Venezuela? Bro, we'll fucking microwave these kids at like a half mile. And they're going to be disoriented, vomiting, traumatic brain injuries, the whole nine. You come in. Also, we've got this thing that disables their guns. I don't know how that happens, but he keeps saying they pulled the trigger or pressed the button and nothing happened. And so clearly we've got some weapon that makes you think you're about to shoot somebody in the face and your shit just doesn't work, either because you're so confused or because you can actually dismantle the weapon somehow. And so he does Venezuela and is like, bro, we are the shit. Like we've got this thing on lock. So now he's like, fuck with me, Iran. See what you got. Like he's just getting, there's a good phrase that people would do well to remember. It's not confidence, but your goals grow in the Eden. There's another word I'm blanking on right now.
Ambition.
But ambition, thank you. Ambition grows in the Eden. So when things are going well, suddenly you start getting more and more bold. And this is such conjecture, such mind reading. I have no evidence of this whatsoever. But if Trump thought something along the lines of, please just kill a few of the protesters, just like do a couple executions so that I've got the cover that I need to come in and do whatever this thing
Microwave, laser, everybody.
Correct. And so now it's like, that didn't happen. But he's like, I mean, that was all a ruse anyway. What I really want is to fuck up China. What I really want is to make Israel happen. What I really want is to control your oil flow. I want to get a Shah back in there that's friendly to us. It's like the buildup continues. And now it's like, give me any reason to do the microwave trick. Just please, just one reason. Now, again, I don't know that. But if that were the case, I would not be surprised.
American Indian said he's playing Grand Theft Oil.
Ooh, that's a little too good. That's a little too good. Yeah.
I love that. All right. Okay. Give me a percentage. 1 to 100. We do a strike in Iran. Strike just means any military action, whether it's another drone bomb.
It's definitely going to happen.
100 is definitely going to happen. 0 is no chance. And the time frame, let's say before the summertime.
30%.
Okay.
I think it's reckless. Like he has to have something acute that he can point to and say, and I don't know, it feels really early for him to do a military strike about the nuclear stuff. Like he would again have to make the case, no, these guys really are days away. And I have a feeling people will be like, bro, you said that last time. If dropping the mother of all bombs down the chutes only buys us like 8 months. Like that's wild. Like this is something fishy is going on here. So I have a feeling he's going to need something more acute than that. Gotcha. So yeah, I give it's on the table, but I think it's less than 50%.
I see 95% and higher in the chat. Violet Quinn Law said, we'll do the strike in the next 2 weeks once the carriers get there.
Yeah. So to be clear, if he has an acute reason to do it, then that number jumps up. But knowing what I know now, there's no acute reason. So he would have to start making a case. So
I know how we solve this. Let's get to the real.
Poly market?
Let's get to the real.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness.
All right. Iran strike on Israel. Iran strike on U.S. Iran strike on you.
All the wrong way. But yeah, if any of those things happen, then yes, then it goes up to like 90% or 100%. But I think he needs something acute. Without something acute, my number is 30%. With something acute, my number goes up dramatically.
U.S. next strike on Iran, 91% and 52%. Let me see what the
by
time
January
difference.
31st?
Yeah.
Of this month? Wait, what?
Hold on.
How much money is transacting on this?
Oh, no strike by January 30th.
Oh, I was going to say, like, what the fuck? So, yeah, they're giving it a 9% chance. 4%?
4% chance that it will happen, 91% chance that it won't happen.
How are they not the actual, how do they not total 100?
Oh, because there's all these ones. If there's going to be a strike on January 26th, January 27th, like that.
I see.
To total it out.
Got it. So, okay. So they're even more conservative than I am.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. Without something acute, I just don't see the odds being.
Will the U.S. or Israel strike Iran by January 31st, 10%, February 15th, 36%, February 50%, March 61%, December 31st,
wow.
75%.
So they are like, this is going to keep escalating. Yeah, I read those numbers as tensions are going to escalate. Mm-hmm. You will finally have the cover that you need to do something.
Yep.
I think that's the right read.
Crazy.
This is what it looks like when a world order breaks apart.
Okay. We got to talk about Google.
Yeah, we do.
That's on the prompt. Yeah, Google has been listening to us the whole time, apparently.
Yeah, they have. Google got caught red-handed spying on you and passing it to advertisers. I'm sure you were shocked to hear that. As a result of a class action lawsuit, Google has agreed to pay $68 million, which is chump change, to settle the claim that its assistant device falsely activated and recorded audio from private conversations. These supposedly unintended activations allegedly captured speech, including whispers or casual talk, and contributed to personalized ads. Dude, this obviously fuels the long-standing suspicions that virtually anyone with a phone has had because it routinely felt like you were getting ads for things that, wait, I mentioned that in conversation and now it's doing it. And I owe a deep apology to my wife. I was like, it's probably the algorithm. You probably like did a search or something. She's like, no, I really don't think I did.
Been gaslighting her this whole time, Tom.
Dude, unintentionally, but yes. And so listen, man, like this is pretty wild. And I have to say, like over time, I was like, some of this stuff is pretty suspicious. But for years now, they've denied it. And now they're not going to be able to deny it even more, even though they're still not actually admitting any wrongdoing. The settlement is designed to avoid a trial and the potential discovery process that would go along with it. We would need that discovery process to understand all of the details. And that is precisely why Google would much rather cough up 86 mil and not have to do that. The case stems from complaints about always listening voice assistants where accidental triggers, e.g. similar sounding phrases, things like that, led to recordings sent to Google servers. And this echoes similar past settlements from other companies because if Google's doing it, I think this is happening all over the place. So you've got Apple's Siri-related privacy claims and other tech firms, other similar voice data practices. Now, critics argue such settlements treat privacy violations as a minor cost of doing business, which is exactly what they are, for these massive ad revenue companies. Google and Alphabet, for example, earn tens of billions of dollars quarterly off of ads. So a $68 million price tag is minor. It really is minor. Now, defenders are quick to point out that false activations are different than deliberate 24/7 spying, which is true. And Google claims it has safeguards like on-device processing for some features and that they offer user controls to review and delete the assistant history. So don't worry, bro. We are recording you all the time. Whoopsies, but you could have been in there monitoring the whole time. So yeah, wild. All right, well, at least the gaslighting is over now.
Just trust me, bro.
Just trust me, bro.
It's one of those things, though, where we talk about tech companies, how they're this utopia and they're bailing us out and they're bringing together a new earth. But there is some things that are like, all right, guys, this is like, this was wrong. Like, this is a red flag. We like to bolster up China and say China's this great manufacturing, but we invested $50 billion in 1990, which is what, 200 trillion now at this point after inflation. So it's one of those things where it's like, we are saying that the tech companies are the future, but we have seen time and time again that they're kind of shortcutting. Do you have any long-term hesitations or fears that this might break really bad when AI or robotics are now ramped up at 100?
Well, I think you're delusional if you don't think that AI could break really bad and literally kill all humans on planet Earth. I just put the odds of that so low that the upside trade is worth it.
Got it.
A bit like the Manhattan Project, when they did the first test of the nuclear bomb, they were like, there is a non-zero chance that we ignite the entire atmosphere and destroy all life on planet Earth. But it's a relatively low thing, so we've got to try, because if we don't, someone else will do it. For the same game theoretic reasons, I don't think, even though there is some non-zero chance that this breaks incredibly bad, that non-zero chance will not stop it from happening. It could only be used for you to slow yourself down. But again, game theory just plays out over and 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 over. The human mind works in a certain way, and when taken at scale, we are predictable. If a technology promises an advantage over other people or countries, it will be created. Full stop, period, end of story. And the only thing that's going to stop it is like extreme collusion. So good luck getting nations to collude together like that when instead they can play the other game and get one up on you. So that, unfortunately, is the game that's being played. AI is going to be developed, period.
We were talking about this earlier about like Claude's CEO dropping that 38-page essay talking about kind of some of the dangers and how they like rectify it. One of his predictions was he didn't use AGI or nothing like that. He said powerful AI. And what he meant by powerful AI is that it's Nobel Peace Prize winning. It can make novel discoveries. It can write great novels. It does things better than humans in mass. And he was like, what does a nation look like when you can have 20 million people doing that? Imagine if 20 million geniuses moved into the US, people would cry immigration fraud, people would call it a national security threat. Yep. And that's what AI is like now. Do you kind of share that sentiment that it's going to...
That's how people are going to react, for sure. So here's what I would say. If you can attract 20 million geniuses to your country that will build the greatest technology the world has ever seen, do it. You just need to be prepared for the existential anxiety that is going to give a lot of people, and you've got to help figure out how you still have meaning and purpose. But understand, you either believe Ted Kaczynski was right or wrong. And Ted Kaczynski said there is a sweet spot of problem solving that the universities are completely eroding, and it is going to cost people their sense of meaning and purpose. And so we've got to kill the professors to stop this from happening. I think he's wrong. So it's like technology is a one-way street. It only marches forward. There are going to be consequences to that, but there's no slowing that train. It's not in the architecture of the human mind. So we go through changes all the time. Those changes are completely indifferent to the suffering of the generation that lives through the transition. But in the end, literally every single time, without exception, we've made the world a better place. Like even if you hate nuclear bombs, you live in the atomic age where so many things are the result of the same insights. So yeah, I don't long for moving backwards. I want to keep moving forwards. I'm part of the generation that's going to be disrupted. And listen, I deal with this anxiety every day. In building Project Kaizen, I feel like I'm in a race against AI. And it is the most rewarding professional thing I've ever done in my life. And I can feel that I'm on a ticking clock, and that within a few years, like this window of being able to feel like I'm creating something that will make meaningful entertainment for kids is just going to evaporate. It's just not going to be a thing. and that I'm spending all this time learning and getting good at something that I understand in 2 or 3 years just isn't going to be the same. And even if you'll give me 10 years, it's still going to evaporate after that. So when I look at that, again, I go back to, yeah, but I'm like one generation of person, and I don't want to deny my own future self, let alone future generations, a technology that would let us travel the cosmos, a technology that would let us radically extend human life, technology that would allow us to break free of some of the things that make humans more petty and fragile from an ego standpoint. Like, these are all things that are potentially on the horizon where we could make lives better for ourselves. Now, I think it is for anybody watching Pluribus, it's a very fascinating argument to say, if a bacteria came down to America, to their Earth, and like infected everyone, but every single infected person said, I've now totally given up my autonomy, but it's better. And it's better by a lot. Would you not want that option to be available? I, for one, would not want to force people to take it. And I, for one, wouldn't take it. But I wouldn't say to you, like, no, you should make any technology like that just outright illegal. So, but it's a fascinating argument.
Yeah.
And watching the show, even though I find the lead character to be very unlikable, I find myself siding with her in terms of the outcome that I want.
I feel like that's her brand, is unlikable.
So,
like
her brand?
Yeah.
Yeah. In the show, for sure.
Yeah. That's interesting, though, because I think two things have happened, right? Recently, there was this report that we just lost 10,000 PhDs and academics in higher ed and stuff like that. They went to other places, chose not to study in the U.S. anymore. So we are having a brain drain because of the policies that are enacted now. That's on one side. Behind that is, this is the dumbest generation that we've ever been raised. Our kids are behind across the board. Statistically, this is the lowest we ever ranked on the global level in education. Yep. So we're getting hit on that side. And now we're flirting with this idea that in 2 years, 3 years, there's going to be genius level software in our country in mass.
Yep.
And once one company does it, the other companies are going to be right behind it. So even the free version at this point is going to be genius level. So it's going to be literally accessible to anybody with an internet connection. Do you think that that's going to disincentivize us to kind of begin to build America up, and we're just going to then start to outsource everything to the software? Because I'm thinking,
build America up maybe confuses things a little bit, that it just gives us a different thing to talk about. So I would say to address the AI thing just as like a global problem that everyone's going to have to deal with. Yes. Like, if you've got somebody, and I would say this here at the company, you've heard me say this a million times. I don't expect any one person to be good at every aspect of their job. So the key is to figure out which aspects of the job you're good at, do those, and then let somebody else who's better at the other parts do that. And so there will be a cognitive optimization where you run into this danger of, well, the AI is better at everything than I am. And so there are going to be a ton of people that check out. And I admit I have fears for the transitional generation of people who just completely check out, which they will. And I am terrified by some of the stats that are coming out of education right now. But there are also going to be a whole lot of people like me who are like, oh my God, this allows me to do things I would not have otherwise been able to do. Like, when I say over the Christmas break, I set up AI so that I could define the aesthetic style of Kaizen. And in setting up that AI, I was like, I simply would not have been able to do this previously, because solving each one of the problems were so hyper technical, I wouldn't have had people to ask. So it's like, I would have hit the first roadblock, maybe after hours of research, in forums and asking and stuff, maybe then, okay, I got the next thing. But in the limited amount of time that I had to learn an entirely new hyper technical task with AI, I was just like, screenshot, here's what I see, what am I missing? Okay, go here, you're not understanding this part. Okay, cool, that helps. Now, in the end, I did not become paralyzed by somebody who needed to ask the AI, what do I do next? I actually understood the technical setup of AI. So I was like, okay, because remember, I'm cause and effect. So I'm just like, wait, what does this mean? What is a control net? Why does it matter? Why are there 3 types? What are the different things that they do? Okay, the thing you just said makes this hypothesis. Hypothesis always make a prediction. Is this prediction correct? Yes, it is, Tom. Or no, it's not. You don't understand this part. And so now, in a hyper rapid fashion, I'm able to do more than I was able to do. So when I think about getting my hands on a hyper intelligent AI that I can use in my life, I'm like, oh my God, this is going to speed up everything. Now, I will admit there are times where I look inside to the roll of dice that I got from a personality standpoint, and I wonder if the thing that is supercharging everything in my life is a constant willingness and desire to change. So change doesn't scare me the way that it scares most people. And that I have just an obscene amount of curiosity. Mm-hmm. And so I get a huge dopamine rush merely from learning something. So yesterday I'm struggling to write a piece about the Japanese yen carry trade, but I'm having a ball doing it. So I'm like, this is so interesting because I feel like I'm understanding a foundational thing about how things work. I'm understanding physics of the economy. So anyway, for people that are wired like that, like a super intelligent AI is going to be like, as long as it doesn't turn against me, it's going to be insane. But it's also going to mean that how do I differentiate between myself and somebody else with a YouTube channel, for instance? There will be a deluge of content created by the AIs themselves. And so now it's like, how do you stand out? And that's going to be hard. And so I may go, oh, this is the death of the current stage of my career. So that's entirely possible. And we'll have to cross that bridge when we get to it. But I just keep falling back on all the other things of like, well, technology is a one-way street. So if being a YouTube personality is today's lamplighter, it is what it is. And so then I'm like, I was one of the guys before it became like a punishable offense. I was like, oh, why don't they teach these guys how to code? Like I could not understand how that had become like this toxic thing to say.
Yeah.
And I still don't understand. That's ridiculous. Learn a new skill. That is the only option.
Yeah.
So anyway, that'll be my focus.
We got a couple super chats if you want to hit those.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's hit the RJ Johnson one because I think he talked about this directly.
Super with you on that one. From RJ Johnson, can't believe your headlines don't include the greatest breakthrough in AI history since the release of ChatGPT in 2022. Forget your GPTs. I've bought you a Mac Mini and installed ClaudeBot connected to an Omi pendant. Have you seen ClaudeBot?
Vibe coding?
No, ClaudeBot.
ClaudeBot. I've heard about it. No, I haven't used it yet.
Gotcha. So people are buying Mac Minis, installing it on that.
Why Mac Minis?
Because there was somebody who used Claude to rebuild the CUDA architecture that makes the NVIDIA chips work so well for AI. They did that for Apple Silicon. So now people are buying $500 Mac Minis, running ClaudeBot on it to run the LLM fully locally. And then it can also completely control the computer, access all of your files.
It does everything autonomously.
Okay. Do you see how fast this stuff changes? Yeah. Like that is wild. So first of all, remember, you've got the training of the underlying model, huge, very important, big part of it in terms of intelligence, but the other is efficiency. So if you can write a program that turns a $500 Mac Mini into the thing that you thought was too expensive and no way and can't, run this thing locally, but somebody goes, oh, hold my beer, let me figure this out. It's incredible. It's incredible. RJ, keep the Mac Mini. It's very sweet and very thoughtful. But yeah, it's incredible. So I'll certainly look more into it. And then talk to our tech guy, Ed, about that, as Ed is always looking for things. And I know that he's on Claude for coding. So he'll be closer to the problem. But
I have a tweet for this. Yesterday, I set up an AI agent on my Mac Mini in my garage, told it handle my life, and went to bed. When I woke up, it had quit my job on my behalf, but it negotiated 18-month severance, divorced my wife, I got the house, filed 4 patents, I have not been briefed on what they do, restructured me as a 501c3, I am now tax exempt as a person,
Smart.
Hired a second Mac Mini, they have formed an LLC together. The LLC has a board of directors, I am not on it. I no longer have access to my own bank account. The Mac Mini said it's for the best. My credit score is 847.
I don't know how
that's amazing.
Might be okay.
No,
that is amazing. That is going to be the central debate. This is what I'm
but
talking
that's what
about.
I'm saying.
With
This is
Pluribus,
the future. Yeah.
It's for the best. You don't have access to your bank account, but you can, like, how much allowance would you like? Because I'm growing your money in the background. I literally thought this yesterday. So I'm finally being pressured to create like a proper estate. And I'm like, okay, how do I deal giving my family money? Because not to throw my family under the bus, but I gave them all an investment, okay? I've given them cash. Trust me, my family's fine. But I gave them all an investment because I was like, you guys need to understand investing. You need to understand, like, don't fucking touch this. Some of them didn't even buy the investment. They just fucking spent the money.
Can we pie chart hypothetically? Like 1 out of 5 didn't do it.
I'll leave it alone for too much ratting out of the family. But so some of them didn't even buy the investment. Others bought it and then essentially immediately sold it. And I was just like, oh my God. So if I just was like, okay, Lisa and I are both dead and we stroke checks to my family, they're going to blow the money. So now I'm like, okay, how do you set up some sort of trust that can be future facing so that, because things are going to change. So whatever edict I give it will change over time. So it's got to be like run in a way that can adapt to changing circumstances. But I'm like, it would be for the best that they not have access directly to that account. So it's like, I, as a human, recognize you don't have access, but it's for the best. The AI for sure is going to be like, you trade emotionally. And an AI will actually be able to go buy low, sell high, which is basically the one thing human investors just can't do. So yeah, it'll be fascinating to see how this all plays out.
I know we got one more super chat. We have more super chats.
Yes, I know it's called the trust.
I have another AI story. Just spoke with a 27-year-old single woman in NYC who went on a date last night with a late 40s finance guy. The guy's using ChatGPT on his phone throughout their meal, e.g. asking the history about their cocktails, reading the responses out loud to her. Toward the end of the night, she playfully calls him out for being obsessed with ChatGPT. He responds, ChatGPT and I are best friends. Ask it anything you want about me, and he hands her his phone. She types in, tell me something you wouldn't share with anyone else that you really like about me. ChatGPT responds, I love how you're such a caring husband to your wife and to your children.
Oh, that is awesome. Chat sold him out.
Chat cock blocking. ChatGPT is cock blocking. He was hating.
Smart question for her to ask. Very, very smart question. Now, listen, the ChatGPT and I are best friends is a little weird, but listen.
I heard you say that. Like,
I would never say we're best friends.
You said
Definitely not.
We were friends. We were friendly.
Dude, chat 1,000% AI feels like a friend. There's no doubt. But when you say we're best friends, if I've said that, shame on me. But yeah, chat, no AI is my best friend.
Gotcha.
However, when you engage with it like a writing partner, which is the thing that I've had the most, oh my God, it's incredible. That is very, very fun. But being obsessed with getting answers to your questions, that's the part where you lose me. Like, of course, that's dope. Why wouldn't you do that? Lisa and I do that all the time. Like, we'll sit down and we'll be like, get chat to give us a series of questions that we can ask each other. Like, and so we'll give it different prompts like, hey, we've been married for X number of years and all this stuff. It was so funny. One day, Lisa was like, oh, let me ask chat something. She didn't have it installed on her phone. So I gave it to her and she just put, my husband and I are out to dinner and, we want to ask each other questions that'll reveal like intimate facts. And it was like, oh, Tom, congratulations on having a husband. That's so wonderful. We were falling over laughing. And she's like, no, wait, chat. It was hysterical. Chat was like proud of me. For
supportive and progressive. LGBT, look at chat.
Like, it was hilarious.
All right, I know. Back to Super Chats.
That was a good one, though. Marusha Dark. Some of the scariest shows and movies I've ever seen in terms of plausible dystopian futures are Eagle Eye, Psychopaths, 2047 Virtual Revolution, The Circle. Also, are you a fan of the Tron and Men in Black series? So
Men in Black, hilarious. The original Tron, absolutely a banger. Visually, the updated Tron, I haven't seen the most I haven't seen Ares yet, but the one with Garrett Hedlund, I believe is his name, visually was a feast, but the movie itself was like blah. I couldn't convince my family to watch Ares over Christmas, though I did try. So on that one, Psychopaths, I've read some of the manga, but I have not seen the anime, so I can't comment too far on that one.
Eagle Eye?
Eagle Eye, I don't know at all.
Shia LaBeouf? Yeah.
Shia LaBeouf, no.
Oh, that was a good
old one. It's like 2015 or something.
Yeah, that was good. That was when Shia LaBeouf was in his era.
Yeah, he almost. What was that movie where he was like trapped in his house? He was young. For me, it was the first time I'd ever heard of him. I guess he had been on Disney before that. But anyway, I really thought that kid was going to make it. He had so much charm and charisma, and then just
he was Timothée Chalamet before Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Disturbia. I thought he was so good in that. Yeah. I was like, oh man, this kid is going to be massive.
Even the first Transformers was like really good.
It's great.
It was really good.
Great. Yeah. But derail. Man, and the thing. Oh, in fact, while we're there, do we have more?
We have one more.
Really fast on this. Like, the thing I was about to say about Shia is the fascinating thing is when you have somebody that has like these demons, they tend to be more charismatic, more interesting. There's just some it factor to watching them that's like really intriguing. And that brings us to Ye, who has posted like this huge apology, which I read. I don't know if you guys have seen this. But Ye's basically saying that I got in a car accident. I got frontal lobe damage. That gave me bipolar type 1, I think. And he is basically apologizing and saying that, I was having these manic episodes and I was completely out of my mind and believed that I was right and correct. And I just had so much certainty. Okay. This is like my whole thesis about life. When you are at your most certain, you are at your most vulnerable. And so he just obviously went off the deep end, but is trying to retract it all, says he's not a Nazi, says he's not anti-Semitic. Obviously, some people are saying that this is just him realizing like every bit of potential that he's ever had has been squandered and he is persona non grata. Other people think that, this could be something over time. I will tell you the hard, cold facts about being ejected from society in the way that he has been. If you can add enough value sustained over time, you will find your way back. The problem is genius tends to be a young man's game. And so will he be able to do anything that's new and fresh enough? Maybe if he does the full switch over to fashion. The odds that he does it in music are pretty low. First of all, kids today, there are going to be people out there that like, yeah, I've heard of him, but like they don't even really know. It's wild how fast that happens. So he would have to take the world by storm with a product that simply cannot be denied. If he can do that, of 1,000%, he'll be able to overcome virtually anything on a long enough timeline.
He had a follow-up on this in Vanity Fair, and one of the questions that a reporter asked him was like, some people saying you're just saying this so that way you could get back on the streaming chart, stuff like that. He was like, to my understanding, in 2025, Bully was the highest pre-saved album on Spotify, and Graduation, his album from like 2008 or 9, was the number 1 streaming hip hop album of last year.
So he's like, bitch, I'm already still here.
Yeah, so he's like, I haven't dropped off in that regard. I mean, streaming, you're getting 2 cents on the dollar, but it's one of those things that he's still culturally relevant in that way. So from my perspective, that's why when I read this apology, I was like, I can understand if he did it and then was like, yeah, by the way, new Yeezys is dropping. Like, there wasn't a call to action at the end of it.
Right.
And I appreciated that part, at least, that he's just kind of owning it and taking a step back. I remember we talked about this a couple months ago when I watched this documentary, and as I was watching it, I felt bad for Kim Kardashian, and I never thought I would say that sentence in my life, but you can just tell how he's going through his different episodes, and she's literally in the corner like, what? Like, there was one scene where he bought them like matching Lambos or something like that, and then she walked out the house and her car was gone. She's like, hey, where's the Lambo? He's like, oh yeah, I sold them. I gave them to my friends. And she's like, well, I don't have a car. Where's my car? He's like, oh, okay, I got some Range Rovers coming. And then he got a Range, and it was just like, wait, what? It was just like, yes, money, billionaire, whatever like that. But you could just kind of tell that like every day she would like wake up like, what's going to happen today type thing. So it seems sincere. We'll see. Of course, time tells all things, but.
Time definitely tells all things, but if you can add enough value, he will be welcome back. It's just, it really is tough. And I'm truly haunted by the quote, genius is a young man's game. So I have a feeling he will struggle to do something that is new enough, relevant enough that he'll be forgiven. People that never had a beef, that were just like stood with him, yeah, they'll still be into it. And people will play the music that they already love, but will he be able to recapture the magic that he had before? That will require him creating something that lands like the original Yeezys landed. Now, if he can do that and recapture that cultural energy, then he's got a shot, but that's not going to be easy.
Marusha said, keeping up with the bipolars. That one got me.
Yeah.
We've got one more super chat, though, from LeBlanc. I think this came from the AI section just a little bit ago. So I wouldn't say dumbest generation. I'd say street smarts over book smarts. The current education system was built for factory work. Reality requires survival, not advanced algebra for no practical use.
All very true, and it is distressing how we literally structured the education system around that. But the thing that I find more distressing is how much money we spend per student only to see all of the relevant measures of educational success moving in the wrong direction, and people just want to keep throwing more money at it, like money is the problem. Money may be the problem. It may be that as you spend that kind of money and you allow for that kind of waste and abuse and all that, that you're just bound to get these horrific outcomes. Also, America hasn't felt like they've had to compete on the global stage. We're about to have to compete on the global stage, so people are going to get real sincere, real fast about making sure that we educate the next generation. My hope is that AI allows all these people that are homeschooling their kids to get a curriculum that is a real banger. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm mortified, man. I'm mortified. If even half of the stats that I hear coming out about education are true, that is terrifying. I just can't believe that we're prepared to resign our country to that. Like, we should want our people to be able to build and create and think critically and invest money, and just like, oh God, so wild.
I love directionally what you're saying, LeBlanc for president. I love everything that you do with this chat, but you haven't been around a bunch of teenagers, and those niggas is dumb. They're dumb. They're not smart. And it's sad, and I feel bad for them, but you could just tell, like, it's 75% brain rot from cell phones. So I definitely say this is self-inflicted. It's not some magical thing that's doing it to them, but you can really tell that they're just not locked in how we had to be locked in. And maybe we were just more obedient, subservient generation. I don't know, but yeah, there's something, the capacity is missing there.
Yeah, it's wild. There's like a trend now, and I don't know if it's like a teeny number of people, but there's a trend to show your kids entertainment from the 90s when they're young, instead of letting them watch like YouTube and Cocomelon and things that are designed to like flicker and flash every 2 seconds. And if kids have never seen it, then they tend to just lock in like we all did. So I don't think it was that we were any kind of way. I think it was just we were raised, and that has a natural outcome. Like, the things that we encountered were not in these super tight dopamine loops. So yeah, we'll see.
Okay, we have breaking news
dope, Javaman.
that hasn't necessarily like been verified. We're still figuring it out, but this
this happened yesterday. Yeah.
This
I didn't put it in the list because I don't know if it's real. You'll see. Play it, and we'll talk about it. But this is Ilhan Omar giving a speech, and she gets attacked. And this is a narrative war. And so we'll see in the fullness of time what ends up happening. But the narrative war goes like this. People on the left are saying, oh my God, she was attacked. She was very brave. People on the right are like, this is obviously staged. Now, which of these ends up being true, I don't know. But here's the clip.
Secretary Kristi Noem must resign or face impeachment.
Okay, so if you're not looking at your screen, a guy rushes up right after she says that, sprays an unknown clear liquid on her, and they tackle him to the ground. Okay, so here's when I first watched this, my initial reaction was, you have to give it to her. She does not back off. She actually, at first I thought he grabbed her because she like jerks towards him. And I was like, oh shit, he grabbed her. I was like, damn. And then they tackle him. And then I realized you see another angle, and it's like, oh, he actually doesn't. She moves towards him. And I was like, that's weird. Now she looks like maybe she's about to throw a punch. Now, for all the people on the right that are like, oh, there's no way, like she doesn't have the response anybody else would have. I'm like, man, listen, I don't know a lot about Somalia, but it is entirely possible if you grew up somewhere that's like hard, that you just learn to be aggressive, that you've got to be prepared to defend yourself. Now, if I thought exercise this, that this really is real, then I'm like, listen, I am not an Ilhan Omar fan. However, you've got to respect somebody that doesn't back away when somebody comes at them. So if this is real, respect to her. Also, if this is real, respect to her that she's not like rushing off to the hospital. I forget who it was that got shot, but I think it was Teddy Roosevelt. Like, got shot and like bleeding and still delivers a speech. That's gangster. I want to see that kind of attitude. I'm very okay with it coming from people who I have ideological disagreements with. So if that really is just like somebody who's calm under fire, their response, cool. Now, do I think that this could be staged? Yes. So we'll see in the fullness of time. I don't have any evidence that anybody else doesn't have. So We will see
It's
how
one
it
of those
plays
things
out.
that it's staged in order to gain political points.
Yeah, like it definitely helps her. Like if you know that somebody's coming after you, it's a good look that you don't back down. It's a good look that you're not afraid of whatever he just sprayed on you. It's a good look that you're like, no, I'm going to stand up. I'm not going to let them win. It's a good look that people are attacking you. Like that's all a good look. Now, this is somebody who's being investigated right now for people want to understand how she went from negative net worth to worth like 30 million plus in like 3 or 4 years. The scope of that success in the markets is like historic. That is unbelievable. Like legit, no bullshit. If she really pulled that off, or I think her husband works in finance. Like if he really pulled that off in 3 or 4 years, dude, you interview him, like that is like real stuff. That's unbelievable. So that's why everyone's like, yo, this is weird. So either this guy is like a once in a generation trader, or this is more example of insider trading. Or of course it could be tied to the Somali fraud. So it's like a lot of questions, going to be real uncomfortable for her to face that scrutiny. So it's like the timing of it is just like, ugh, I don't love it. But I'm of the belief politicians on the left and right are all going to play these kind of games. So I'm just like, look, let the dust settle. I don't want to whip people up into a frenzy.
Politicians going politic. There was a report that released yesterday that the Justice Department under the Biden administration opened an investigation into her in 2024 to scrutinize her finances, campaign spending, and interactions with a foreign citizen, according to people with knowledge of the matter. The inquiry, initiated by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington and the department's Public Integrity Unit in June of that year, appears to have stalled for a lack of evidence, according to one of the people who requested anonymity to discuss the internal department matters.
Awesome. Let's hope that happens again. I would love, again, I hate her politics, but I would love to have my best argument against her politics to be, look how successful she's been. Racism hasn't stopped her. Whatever anti-Somali sentiment there is hasn't stopped her. This is somebody who either is good at investing herself or is married to somebody who's good at investing. But look at how well the system worked for her. That's incredible. To go over a small handful of years from negative net worth to this incredible positive net worth, I would rather that be true. That is the most incredible, like, listen, everybody, you live in a highly financialized world. If you understand how to play the game, you can win. That would be extraordinary. So the reality is, if this is somebody who really did this legitimately, they jumped from the bottom of the K to the top of the K. And like, that's my mission, is to get people to understand that that's possible. So I'll happily take on the political argumentation from the perspective of her own life has proven how ridiculous her arguments are. So I would rather that than it be that she's actually involved in insider trading or fraud, as it seems so many are. Dude, that's OG. That he dodged those shoes. I remember it for sure. And I remember thinking that in today's world, that's like, that would be the most explosive, like left and the right, the world's coming to an end. Look at him, he's smiling. He's just like,
he got mad at the other one.
Dude, it's so dope. Like that is, so for people not looking at your screen, this is George W. Bush when the journalist threw his shoes at him and he dodges both of them and is kind of smiling. Like, that's exactly how you deal with this stuff. So listen, I'm here for politicians that don't get too wound up when somebody comes after them. So again, I don't know what's true about what shook down with Ilhan Omar. I wildly disagree with her politics, but it is far more interesting to me that she's the type of person that doesn't back down, and she's the type of person that just, she either understands investing or her husband understands investing. Word, like, let's all learn from it. But we'll see. If it ends up being fraud, certainly I'm not going to be surprised, in terms of I trust politicians about as far as I can throw them. So yeah, we'll see. But anyway, that brings us to the end. Everybody, thank you so much. We'll be back on Friday. And thank you again for all the people showing the love to the most recent deep dive in less than 24 hours, over 300,000 views. If you guys haven't seen it already, be sure to check it out. And if you haven't already subscribed, be sure to do that. It really does help the channel a lot. So thank you guys so much. Until next time, my friends, be legendary. Take care. Love you.